Hi, welcome everybody. This is Angelique Duffield from Bright Spark Media, and this is the Power of Free show where we help entrepreneurs and business people learn what free tools the experts are using to get their business to thrive and succeed. So I'm really excited today to have Chantelle Adams on the show talking about public speaking and how you can use it as a tool in your business. I've worked with Chantelle in her Center Stage program, so I'm so excited that she's agreed to be on the show today. Chantelle is a professional speaker, a speech stylist, and courage igniter. And through the past 4 years, she's delivered over 700 speeches. That is a crazy amount of speeches, and added more than 6 figures to her business through speaking. Now she teaches women entrepreneurs how to own their story, write their signature speech, rock the stage, and get booked while adding more clients and cash to their business through speaking. So welcome, Chantelle.
Woohoo! Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad to have you on the show today. And I just wanted to do that little brief introduction to you, but what I really want you to talk about is how you got your own Brave on and share a little bit about your story.
Well, for sure, for sure. So this is part of, it's been an amazing kind of evolution through my business and through really finding my passion and being able to really zero in on the message that I'm meant to share with the world. So I actually had a really profound kind of moment in my life, and it was when I was sitting at my friend's funeral, and I was sitting in the back row, and tears were streaming down my face, and I knew that, you know, she had been taken way too early, and her fight with breast cancer had kind of, she had lost that battle to breast cancer, and her oldest son was talking at the time, and he said, it was talking about her final hours and how he really, you know, didn't want to give up that fight. She didn't want to give in. And so I just was sitting there listening to him talk, and I realized it was like the wind got knocked out of me. I realized that for all this time I had been, you know, living my life. I was alive, I was breathing, but I wasn't truly living the life I was meant to be living. And as I really dug deep, I realized that the reason I wasn't fully living my life the way I was meant to be was because of that nasty 4-letter word, fear. So fear was really keeping me stuck. So that's where I was like, I am going to make my fear list, and I'm going to cross everything off of it. And so I did. I started writing some crazy things down on my fear list and started checking them off. And that started my own personal courage journey and courage revolution. And then that's where I decided to jump out of an airplane, which was crazy. And I knew I needed to have a bigger why to get over that fear, because that was like the biggest fear. And so my why was to build a school in Nicaragua. So I was falling 10,000 feet to raise $10,000. And this just catapulted me into this world of collaboration. We co-authored a book with 60 amazing women called The Courage to Fly to support this project, the Courage to Fly project, where I jumped out of this airplane. And that really spurred me into having a team, working with women entrepreneurs, and really following my passion of sharing public speaking and sharing this message of courage. So that's kind of a short little glimpse of where I came from and how I got to where I am now.
That is such an awesome story, and I love it every time that I hear it, because it's not only is the story powerful, and you'll probably touch on that as we're talking about public speaking today and how important storytelling is to your own message and to public speaking in general, but how you got all these women together to contribute to this book, and then you raised the money and you put together this whole fundraising program. Like, what an inspirational journey that was. So congratulations. I think that's such an amazing accomplishment. You should be so proud.
Thank you. It was amazing.
So why don't we talk about public speaking? And you've already touched a little bit on how it can really change your life when you add your story to it, but why it's really important to your business to do some public speaking, and how it can help catapult your business in terms of credibility and reach and even generate more money.
Definitely. Well, that's a lot. I could talk for hours about that alone. But yes, for sure. I have been using, like, I was doing public speaking for years and doing it just as my business, like, so public speaking alone. And then I was introduced into the online world, right? And really the online, how everybody was using it. And I have seen huge marketers and amazing examples of people that are doing amazing, huge things with their business, and have heard in their newsletters or their emails or their posts how speaking was really something that has catapulted them into that whole new level. And so, I just got one from Kendall Summerhawk the other day, how she said speaking is the core of what she uses to be able to launch her business, launch her courses. And if you think about, lots of people think about speaking as only that live piece. So only speaking live on other people's stages or on your own stage. But there's this whole other piece that people sometimes miss, is the whole marketing and the free speaking. So just like we're doing here right now, I'm using my skills as a public speaker, and so are you, to be able to do this interview, to deliver value, to connect with an audience, and to be able to expand our reach, but also to build our credibility. So you can do interviews, you can do videos, you can do podcasting, you can do all these things that include speaking. And so speaking is something way bigger than a lot of people give it credit for, right? So a lot of people think, well, I could never step on stage. But I often say you are a public speaker because you are having your voice, sharing your message, you're leading, even if you do a teleseminar or a webinar, right? You are speaking, you are a speaker. So I love that. So there's so many ways that you can add speaking to your business and profit from it. And we should probably get more specific, but...
Well, I was just going to jump in and say, when I took your course, and I had kind of had in mind, what everybody's goal is to do a TED Talk or something like that. Originally, I thought that I wanted to be an actor, like just do, community theater or something. And then over the years, I kind of realized maybe it's not really acting that I want to do. I want to do public speaking, which is so weird for me because when I was younger, like in high school, I was deathly afraid of standing in front of my class, had the sweaty palms and stuttered and read my entire presentation that I had to do. And suddenly as I got older and I guess gained more confidence in myself, and as I'm growing as a business person, it was all kind of coming together. But in your course, I realized, oh my God, public speaking doesn't have to just be on a stage. It can be like what I'm doing here, these hangouts on air that I've been doing, and being on other people's shows and telesummits, and that light bulb really went off, that public speaking is so much more than what people really think that it is.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, exactly. And one of the best ways to build your list, to get clients, what better way to connect with someone than to, like I've just done, share your story, share your passion and your message in a compelling way. People hear you, they see you, that's an immediate connection and bond, and way bigger than if they just find you on social media and you're just a little image in the corner, right? So they're seeing you, they feel your emotion, they feel your passion, they get to hear you, and so there's a lot deeper connection that's built through speaking.
That's a really good point, and I believe that too when I'm talking about, when I'm writing my blog posts and talking on this show about how powerful video is, because that's my medium online, whether it's telesummits or hangouts on air or whatever it is, just to get in front of people, and it's the next best thing to being there.
Yes, for sure, for sure. And always remembering and having in mind that you are, so times when because this is the power of free, right? So I just recently did a free speaking gig, and it was, though, the most amazing event. It was Ladies Who Lunch, and so we got to get all dressed up, and it all was my ideal clients, really. They were a room full of 100 over 100 women entrepreneurs, and they were there, and I was the keynote speaker, and so I spoke for free. But something about speaking for free, I'm also getting images from that speaking gig, and I am getting a video of my speech as well from that speaking gig. So you can work things in that are huge value when you speak for free. The other thing is I have connected with several of the ladies from there who are now in programs that I'm offering. So it was also, if you look at it, okay, so I spoke for free, but I also made thousands of dollars coming out of that because of the clients and the potential clients that will come from that one speaking gig.
Right, that's a great point. How you can get residual income, because when you're speaking on a stage or on shows like this, it builds your credibility, and then you can get coaching clients or get people into your programs, and even webinars. That's a huge way that everyone's not just list building, but getting people to actually say yes to their programs. And that's a really good point too about when you're on stage and people are taking photos of you and posting them and sharing them. You can add that to your media page or your about page, and it builds your credibility as well. And having a video or even some video clips, that's a really good point.
Yes, yes, and definitely there was tons of tweeting going on, and so it was really cool too, because when you speak, and I always teach people to speak in tweetables, so when you deliver a speech, you want to find like some power statements that are short, powerful, and really deliver a key message. And it was really cool to actually see some of the tweetables that I actually wrote in my speech. So I actually purposely put them in there hoping that people would tweet them out, and it was happening. So I went back on Twitter after I was done my speech, and there was fail like a pro, you know, courage takes practice, right? There was all these little tweetable, get your brave on. So there was all these tweetables that I purposely put into my speech that I was seeing all over Twitter from a variety of sources being shared. And so again, that just promotes your message, it promotes what you do, it gives people a greater idea of how you work with people and what you can offer them.
Yes, that's fun. Sorry?
And I said, and it's just fun to see you out, you know, all your little main points being scattered around Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely. That's total social proof right there. I think it's maybe Gary Vaynerchuk who talked about talking in sound bites, or maybe it was Derek Halpern. So that's when you're talking about tweetables, that's exactly what you're saying. Talk in, like, give little statements that allow people to tweet things out. And
Yeah.
I've seen at conferences sometimes the speaker tells people to put their phones away or put their laptops away, and I think that is so detrimental. First of all, people learn in different ways, and nowadays people are taking notes on their iPads and even on their phones and recording things, and so many people are actually tweeting things out and sharing it on Facebook, and if you shut people down and tell them not to do that, then you're telling them not to share your message, and it's really evolved in the speaking world, I think, that how we need to let people to absorb the information the way they do and to help us to spread our message.
Yes, for sure. And another great way to take advantage of those free speaking events or even paid speaking events is to make sure, and I did this all throughout my business, is make sure you are collecting emails. So make sure that you're able to offer something for free. In the online world, we all are familiar with opt-in offers, but I remember I had a friend who was at conference, and she's not an entrepreneur, and she had just gone, and she was so pumped up by the speaker, and she said he was so amazing and he was so generous because he couldn't get to all of his material. He ran out of time. He had so much more he wanted to share with us that he said, I'm going to give you this gift for free, and I'm going to give you all of my slides that I didn't get to, like all of his PowerPoint slides, so that they would have the rest of his speech. And she's like, that was just so generous of him. So of course she opted in, and in my mind I'm like, yeah, I know exactly what he was doing.
That's funny, because I've had that conversation just recently with some of the center stagers as well, and you are so fantastic at marketing, at this whole marketing funnel, and watching the different ways that you've promoted your programs, like with webinars and your speaking extravaganza week, like all those sort of things that kind of tie into marketing, but it's also giving so much value to people that they really appreciate and see the generosity, but it's also leading them through your sales funnel.
That's right, exactly. And a big, big thing that I always say to people is you have to have really valuable content. So
Yes.
when I was doing, you know, like you mentioned, that free week of training with people, I was delivering some really great content and really going deep with them and really helping them have breakthroughs and seeing the value that I can offer. And one of my favorite lines is, you've seen the difference that 1 week can make, and then look at what could possibly happen in 6 weeks weeks or 10 weeks working with me, right? So it is giving people, and that's the same thing through your speaking. It's giving them that little taste test of what you could offer. And so remembering that you can scatter throughout your speech different stories of people that you have worked with, and you share it in a way that's genuine, and you're sharing the story of how your message really has impacted someone else's life, then people's little light bulbs are going off, and without you having to say, I'm a coach or I'm a this, you just say, I had the opportunity to work with someone, and this is where they were, and then after working with them, these are the breakthroughs, and if you apply these things, you can have a similar outcome. And then they're thinking, yeah, okay, so she does this with other people, so she must be able to do this with me. So their light bulbs are going off without you even having to say, I'm a coach, come work with me. So it's a really nice way to just sharing your message with people in a really natural, genuine way. So whether you're live or whether you're online like this, then you can still share different and see different things that will eventually lead people to work with you further.
So that's such a great way of looking at it. And I have been to conferences who are speakers who either do it where they, at the end, they kind of have a big call to action, come on over and buy my stuff, and at the back there's a book, and you can buy this, and you can sign up for my program now. And to me, that feels a bit intrusive, especially if you've paid for an event to be there, and they kind of start pitching, and that kind of gets me wrinkled a bit. But so I really do prefer people who show you their message and show you why you want to work with them the way that you're talking about. I think that's so much better and a great way to do it. So how do you kind of learn to do that? Did you have any coaches that you would recommend? Well, besides yourself, but who did you learn from, and how did you learn these techniques?
Well, you know, it's funny because you've said you kind of have watched me in my marketing and that kind of thing, and honestly, I'm not very marketing focused in a sense. So when I get into, and it hasn't been, it's been trial and error. It's been what feels right. Like for me, it just came naturally to share some people's breakthroughs and stories because I know how powerful storytelling is. And I'm not one of those people who wants to do the big hard sell at the end. I've never been that person. And so for me, it was just this natural way of sharing. And because I know the powerful results that I can help people get, and because I believe in the work I do, it's natural for me to want to share that. So it comes off as very natural, and that's what I try to do. And same with whenever I do consultations or free calls or that kind of thing, it's never like this hard sale. It's always like what I know I can deliver and how it could benefit that person. So I'm always looking for ways to serve, ways to give back, ways to help people. And so even when I'm sharing stories or case studies, kind of for the purpose of leading them to my work, I always have amazing content and takeaways that they can grab away from that, right? So that they never feel like it was just a pitch or just a call, that they always feel like they walked away with something of value, whether or not they work with me. And I think that's just something we need to remember, is that delivering high content and high value all the time is going to eventually lead people. It may not be that immediate, but I know it'll come. The right people will come when they're ready. And I think that's a beautiful thing to remember too.
Awesome. That's a really great tip. Always provide good content. And we hear about this in the online world all the time, and I think sometimes the message gets lost for business owners and entrepreneurs that they don't necessarily think about creating content. So why don't we, I mean, this isn't exactly what we talked about, but why don't we talk a bit about that, what you created, if you don't mind sharing a bit of like your sales funnel. Like you've done a few different things to support your center stage program and to get people interested. Like you've created a video series and things like that. How did you decide what to create and what to put out there as free content?
Okay, love that. So for me, it was really like, what do people struggle with in my programs? On a like, what are some of the things where they're like, it's a lot and it's really deep work. And so my first 2 weeks in my center stage program, the first one is owning your story, which is really deep work.
Yes.
And so I find that people need more than that 1 week to really dive in and to really understand how their story connects to their message and what story to tell. And so in my free week, I was like, in the free series that I did, I said I could do that. I could add value and help them to really start to dive into their story, because if they start to work with me, they're still going to get way more value and way more content and go a lot deeper, but they've got a start. So I think sometimes when you think about content, think about what people need or what you wished people had before working with you. So what is that kind of step up to get them ready or prep them to be able to take that full course or that full program? And I've pulled little bits from my program to then develop this four video training series, which again was things that they get in the course, yes, but we go a whole lot deeper in the course, and it's a nice kind of taste tester, I guess, or a little bit of a preview on my work, and gives them that opportunity to start taking action, and then if they want to go further, then obviously the course or program is the next step. But I also wanted to touch on that I did this free video training. You know how everybody has their video sales funnel, so they have it set up, and you get one video, and then you get an email for the second video, and then the third one, and then the fourth one. Well, I tried that, and I had quite a few people sign up, but I just was missing the interaction. Because there wasn't really that way to know and connect and follow up and help them to actually apply what the videos were sharing. And so I actually took, and Angelique was great because she's like, I saw this video sales funnel a while back, and I actually just repurposed it. So I used that video and those PDFs, but I did it in a different format this time, which I loved, which was the speaking extravaganza. And it was a full week where every day in Facebook, we would have a private Facebook group and community. Every day I would release one video and one PDF. And that was amazing because I could then get them to actually comment and share, and there were so many interactions happening and collaborations, and people were connecting with people that are going to help them to move their businesses forward, and it was amazing to watch. But also I had the opportunity to interact and to give back, and that's what my programs are really strong in, is really that one-on-one component, and I really like to dive in and really support the people I work with. So again, this was a trial and error. I did it the way everybody else was doing it with the video funnel, and I didn't like it because it missed that one-on-one component. So then I took it to this free week, and that's where I had really amazing opportunities to connect with these ladies further.
What a great example of repurposing as well, that you tried something out that, you know, people were all talking about, and then you found a way to kind of make it your own and to make it even more valuable, really, by adding it into your week-long speaking group and getting people to do more interaction, which I think is where the value is, instead of people just kind of consuming and then not doing anything with it.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so let me just ask you about how you actually get to booking speaking gigs. How do you connect with these people, like your ideal conference that you want to speak at or something like that? How do you reach out and start promoting yourself and getting these gigs booked?
For sure. So I am a big promoter of building relationships and genuine relationships and friendships. And so for me, I'll just use the recent event that I spoke at as kind of an example. I received an email in my inbox with somebody who was speaking at this online summit called Fearless and Fabulous. And of course, I'm the Courage Revolution, so I'm like, Fearless and Fabulous really fits with what I have to offer. So I actually just sent out, first of all, I connected with the founder on Facebook, sent her a friend request, found that she was in some similar connect-in groups, so she was in B-School with me and different things that I didn't realize. And of course, I knew the person quite well that she also had speaking at her event. And so I was able to then build a connection. So I followed her on Twitter, on Facebook, all that kind of stuff. Then I wrote her an email and said, hey, we are in a lot of the same kind of circles. And I actually just received an email from a colleague of mine, a good friend, and we are good friends, so-and-so. And there was actually 2 people that I knew that were speaking on the summit. So I built that connection in, right? I know these people. We've worked together and built that connection in. I told her that I thought her event sounded like a perfect fit, and here's why. And then I shared some of the benefits that I could give her audience. And I said, you know, I see it's already out there, but I would love to be considered for a future event, or you could just add me in as a bonus. And so, and so she got back to me and she's like, sure, I'll add you in as a bonus speaker. And so I was like, great. And so that was really cool to see that started to evolve. Now, so I started with connecting, building relationships, reaching out, adding value. So these are all steps to building that relationship, offering what I could do for her, right? And then fulfilling that. We had an amazing interview, so I delivered really good value and content to her audience. It was great. And then from there, we continued our relationship. And it was about probably 5 months later is when she was hosting this live event. And we were talking, and she said, you know what, I would love to have you come and be the keynote speaker for this event. Cool. So, of course, yeah, I'd love to. So it was, you know, it was a progress that happened, and it was relationship building that led to that event taking place. So I thought that was kind of a good example of showing how we connected, how we met, and then the process that you could do to reach out to someone, build that connection, start to collaborate on some projects, really deliver value and benefit to their audience, and then continue that relationship.
Awesome. And I actually did the same thing with the Underground Art Initiative. And I saw that you appeared on that show, and it was just while I was taking your course a month or so ago. And I thought, hey, that looks really cool, and there's some great people, and it's a really interesting concept. And I connected with Shayna and said, hey, I'm in this course. And for me, I kind of did a different pitch, and this is something that I use with my students when we talk about our bucket list project. And as a student, it's really easy to get people to say yes, like students and charities, people kind of have a little bit of a soft spot for. So I kind of started my pitch with, you know, just complimenting her on some of the things I'd seen in the current show and people that I'd loved that I'd seen on the show, and thought, you know, I would love to do this. And I'm taking Chantelle's course, and of course you were one of the speakers, so we had that connection there. And I said, you know, one of our topics on the course is to reach out to people, and so I'm reaching out to you now, and I would love to see if there's any way that I can help your audience talk about, you know, some of my expertise, which is Hangouts and visual marketing and social media, and is there any way that we can tie that in and I can help you? So we ended up hitting it off, made an appointment to have a chat, chatted for an hour, and then now I'm on the next version of the show that's coming up next month.
Woohoo! I know, that was so awesome. And even another tip, because as you brought up Shanna, I actually worked with her on my Courage to Fly project. So she was one of the authors in the Courage to Fly book, and so we started to build that relationship. And what was funny is that from me interviewing some really amazing people, and in that book we had some really awesome people in that contributed to it, which was really great. And so I built some really great relationships with some people that were doing amazing work in the world. And then from there, it was me hosting that event, and I was able to connect with them further and build that relationship further. And like with Shanna, she invited me in to be one of her speakers. And then I had actually 3 others from that book ask me to be part of their summits or their live events or speaking online or interviews. So it was really great to see that, and that's another tip for you. If you are inviting people in, just like Angelique's doing right now, she's building relationships with people because she is hosting them, interviewing them. So if you can do something on your end to show them, you know, to the world and share their work with the world through a podcast or an interview series or a book or whatever it might be, they are going to be grateful for that. And that's going to start building that relationship with some key players that could then promote you or ask you to speak at some of their events or share you with their audience as well.
Absolutely, and I've heard a few other people say that too. The best time to get people on your show is to talk to them when they've got a book launch, when they've got a product launch, when they've got something that they want to promote and talk about, then it actually kind of naturally leads into them having something to talk about on your show.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
And it kind of touches on like my North Star that we talked about in your course, is that collaboration is the shortcut to success. And that whole building relationships and networking and reaching out to people and not being afraid to have people say no to you is a really big part of what I'm about. And I've learned that there's some people that just kind of ignore your messages, but there are a few people who will just jump on it and just be really excited. I mean, like you coming on the show as well. I've done a photographer's live chat, and I was really amazed that this one huge photographer that I asked, he turned around within 24 hours and said yes. And I thought, oh my God, I can't believe this person said yes to my little show. And you just never know what happens when you reach out to people. And I do always start, like I said, by giving value, or by saying what's in it for them, and how can it, if they've never been on a hangout, they can learn what it's like to be on it without, without too much stress, without running their own show, or to just be able to reach my audience that people might not even know about them.
Love it, love it. Yes, and there's so many amazing things that come from that.
Yes, for sure. Let me just jump back to something where we started before, talking about booking gigs and how you use the same message, your North Star, and you've got kind of a set speech that you can turn it into a full day workshop, or shorten it to 1 hour, even 20 minutes for a TED Talk, and how you change it up so it's really the same core speech, but you personalize it for the audience. And I know when you started doing the assembly program, when you very first started doing your speaking, that's kind of what you did. You said that you reached out to one of the principals. So why don't you just share a bit about that and how you made it valuable for them?
For sure, for sure. So yes, when I first started, it was definitely, again, a relationship piece. It was over probably a year and a half before I actually got into the schools, of just kind of putting seeds out there, talking to principals and connecting with them, asking what they would like to see happen. And then I came across one principal who's like, you know what, I'm going to bring you in. And I was like, yay, okay, perfect. And here's the thing is that with speaking, you can go so far by word of mouth. So when someone brings you in to speak and you deliver and you really add a ton of value to their audience and you really rock that stage, then they're going to talk and they're going to spread the word. And you can ask them to spread the word, but often they will do that just on their own. And I have gotten so much repeat business just through that process of really delivering high value and really being able to make the audience happy so it makes the organizers happy. So that was, again, a collaboration piece. But going back to your first question about how I kind of repurpose things, definitely you can take your signature speech, which is what I call it, and take it and apply it to all kinds of different audiences. So I took my first signature speech, was probably 5 years ago that I wrote it, and it was 7 keys to unlocking your potential, which is a little long. I now have learned that that's too many steps. But I went with it, and I rolled with it, and I shared it to university students at universities. I shared it to elementary schools, to students, student organization, to bus drivers, to custodians, to a whole Aboriginal village way up north. And it was just amazing how I could take that same message and just tweak it to really fit and feel like I had written it just for that audience. And so it's just important to know that most of the time, your North Star, as I call it, which is like your key message, the one that you would shout from the rooftops if you could, your key message is really, it's a truth, right? Like it's something that you learned along the way from your story, from the lessons that you learned through your story. It's something you believe so deeply. And so, of course, the message that you deliver to support that North Star is going to apply to lots of different people, or hopefully it will, right? And so you can definitely focus on the group of people that you most want to help or that you have programs and offerings for, but you can speak to probably any types of audiences and take that core message and just add different videos, different stories, different little jokes, or it's those added things that can take a core message and really turn it into feeling like it was an individual message for each person or each group. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's kind of like when you think of the hero's journey, like that's kind of having challenges and struggles and then having a breakthrough and then having, you know, the happy ending. And that is used in so many stories. So that would kind of be a North Star, and they use it in Star Wars and the Odyssey and all sorts of books all have that kind of same story, and then you just kind of tweak it to their audience.
Mm-hmm. For sure, for sure.
Cool. Okay, so that's really useful. What would you say are the 3 most important things to think about when you're crafting your own speech?
Okay. So the 3 most important things when you're crafting your speech is, first of all, really know who you're talking to. So I always do a lot of research on, and I ask. So if I am going into an organization or a business or a group of people that maybe I'm not as familiar with, or maybe they're not my maybe ideal clients, that I really ask. I ask the organizer, you know, what are their frustrations? What are they really hoping to get out of today? What do you think they most need to hear? So I really ask, and I make sure I know numbers, and I make sure I know, obviously, their job or their background. So I get a lot of information. I do my research, and I do my homework, and then I really try to tweak my message to that. So I think that's really important, is really know who you're speaking to. And then also focusing on the one. So it's not so much about you. It's about the person that needs to hear your message. So I always talk about this in programs and coaching, is just really focusing in on that one person. And that's something I do every time I take the stage, is that if there's one person that's hearing me speak today that I help positively change their life or impact their life in some way, then I've done my job. So it's not about getting everybody to love you and to, you know, because they might, but it's not about that. It's not about you, it's about them. And I think as soon as you change that focus, it takes the fear away. Well, a little bit. I still get scared every time I speak. But it helps to lessen that fear because you have a bigger purpose, and it's not about you, it's about them. So that's the second big thing. And then again, just like I talked about before, is delivering huge value. So you want to deliver content, value. You want to give them takeaways so that they're actually taking action right then and there, if you can, giving them challenges and exercises and activities that they can actually follow through on and apply and see some changes or see it taking place in their life or taking action in their life right then and there during that hour that they have with you. That's really powerful. But yeah, delivering huge value, tremendous takeaways, making sure that they're walking away with some amazing things, even if they don't take their work with you further. And then always remembering to give them away to follow up with you. Because I always say, too, it's a disservice. If you have just touched someone's life and they are just amazed at what you just said and they are just blown away, and then you don't give them a way to find you again or to connect with you, right? They want that. And so let them have that opportunity to follow up with you.
Awesome. Those are 3 good points. I was actually just making some notes while you're talking.
Oh, good.
Because it's such great information, and I'm hopefully going to kind of repurpose this too into some little chunks that we can share later. So I'm just kind of working on that part of getting these Hangouts organized and how I can reuse them and make them more valuable too, for not just myself, for my audience, and for you, that you can use bits of these as yourself and even add to your speaking, you know, your speaking portfolio.
Awesome.
Cool. So why don't we talk about some of the free tools that you use in your business? Now, this is kind of going back to, you were talking about doing webinars, and you do a lot of things like using Facebook groups in a really valuable way, not just using advertising and making friends, but actually you're using the tools in a specific way. And you've talked about, you know, how you film your videos and that. Do you want to just touch on some of the free things that you use?
Sure. I know I had someone actually just ask recently, what camera do you use for your videos? They look so professional. I was like, it's just my iPhone. So I thought that was fun, because you can just use your iPhone. You don't have to have all the fancy equipment. And I have a little, well, that's not free, but I have a little, I was like,
but we all have phones anyway, so that I want to talk about that too, that you can take great video on almost any phone, whether it's a smartphone or an iPhone or a Samsung or whatever. They all take really good video now, so use what you've got.
That's right. That's right. And then I use the free app, which is iMovie, just to edit it. and really easy then to upload to YouTube, which is all free. One thing that I love using too is similar to Google Hangout, but I find it super user-friendly and easy and quick for me, so I've just been enjoying it. But it's Spreecast, which I've used for my free webinars and that kind of thing. So Spreecast is something that I have loved using, and there's lots of different features like the chat and to get people involved, and so that's been really fun. And then I also use Free Conference Call for anytime I coach. I use it to record our calls, and then I'm able to send them an MP3 of our calls. But also in my programs and offerings, that's what I use for our group calls as well, and it's free and it's great quality, and then you get to be able to automatically post it in Facebook or that kind of thing, so it makes it really easy to share it. So I love Free Conference Call. It's another free one. And let me see, what else do I use?
We'll talk about Facebook groups and how you can use those for your business.
Yes, good. So yes, so Facebook group is something that I use for, like we just talked about, I did a free week-long challenge, and so we were in there daily, and that's a great way. I use Lead Pages, which isn't free, but it's quite inexpensive. Lead Pages for any kind of sales page or sales funnel, and they're really easy to use. I'm not tech savvy like Angelique, so I like things super easy, and this was definitely an easy option. And I actually had some people quote me, like I went and I was looking for people to quote me for a video series to do it up, you know, like on my website, and to do just that free video series, and it was like $3,000. It was crazy. So I was like, okay, Lead Page is about $149, I think, is what I bought it for. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what it was for a whole year. And so you can do as many sales funnels, squeeze pages, opt-ins as you want. So that's what I use to then grow my list and then lead them to the Facebook group where we have the challenges going on and active in there. And then that's also a big part of every program that I offer, is that Facebook connection and Facebook group. So it's a wonderful way to find clients. Well, I would say probably 99% of my clients have come from Facebook. So it's definitely a huge free tool, and I only barely started doing Facebook ads. So I was always using it just in the forums and groups that I'm a part of, and building connections again to then be able to grow your business.
That is awesome, and I love that you've talked about how you've used Facebook but not in the conventional way. And I think people get that misunderstanding. Whenever I talk about using Facebook, people say, oh, LinkedIn is so much better for building connections and for getting value in terms of monetizing your business. But I think if you use Facebook properly, and I use it very similar to you, I use Facebook groups, and I'm, you've seen me. I mean, I talk a lot, and I jump in, and I help people, and I give suggestions, and I make comments, and if they ask for feedback on things, I'm right in there trying to give it. So that making that kind of visibility, and for you having things like the group where people can support each other, where you can keep all the files and everything together, and just kind of keep people moving forward. I think that's such a great way to use Facebook.
For sure.
Okay, so we're coming up to 45 minutes, and I just thought I would hop over to the questions and see. We do have one question from Elizabeth. She has asked, do you have any tips or suggestions for two speakers who have similar stories who want to share the stage at the same time? This is versus speaking one person at a time. So I'm not quite sure if she's talking about a panel or if they're going to be at the same conference and basically they have kind of a similar message or similar story maybe.
Okay, yeah, I'm almost thinking, yeah, I was trying to read it if she's meaning like they're actually going to share the stage and talk at the same time. But definitely, I mean, we all have similarities, and I think that's what bonds us and what connects us, and I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think having similarities in your story is definitely a connection piece, and if you are sharing the stage with someone, to be able to almost make it like a conversation and being able to kind of, almost like we're doing right here, but it would be side by side, addressing the audience, but then also being able to go back and forth and share your insights and your inputs, and having two people sharing in that kind of a manner could be really powerful, and it's a little bit different than you would normally see. And so I think that could be a really cool thing to do, especially if you have a very similar message. So I would say that you would each have like your main points and your main things that you want to share, that you would each take your turn to share your story. And then both add value to the audience if you were sharing the stage. If you're at the same event or you're putting on an event together, then you can definitely, I mean, I totally recommend doing collaborations and making those things happen for sure. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, she said at the same event, 2 people on the stage at the same time. So almost like a panel, you could look at it like that. And I've been part of panels myself, and I try and make sure to feed off of what the other people say and to use it to lead into what I'm talking about, and then to kind of give the floor over to someone else. So it makes it more like a team effort. So we're not really competing against each other. But I've also seen there's a hangout that's actually happening at exactly the same time, where someone's got people with 2 different conflicting points of view and almost doing it like just a chat show, but having them have their contrary points of view, and that kind of tension adds to the show. I think if you've got people who have really, really different opinions on something, it's the same topic, and that happens with Canon versus Nikon when we're talking about cameras, or iPhones versus everything else, basically, or whatever topic you're speaking on. You can have a really passionate debate about something like that.
Yes, and I love how you said that, Angelique, too, like how you kind of lead with a comment that they've done, and I think we've done that on this show, actually. Like when I've shared a story about, connecting with someone and being booked for an event, that triggered something in you, and you said, I love how you shared that because that reminded me of, and then you led into your story, and then I actually fed off of your story and said, well, that actually reminded me of connecting with Shanna on another time, and and then it led me into being able to share more information. So being able to just be really connected and really open, and definitely being very genuine and gracious on the stage, and showing how your messages kind of connect, and just going with that flow that would naturally happen for sure.
And it makes it more like you're talking to a friend, as opposed to sometimes people get on stage or in front of the camera, and I put my hand up, I've done this myself too, and said, hey everyone, and that is some people's style, but you spoke about talking to the one, and talking to that one person in the audience, or when we're on stage having a normal conversation, so it doesn't feel like it's salesy, it's not that kind of icky pitch that people kind of get scared of sometimes, that our conversation here, and that's why I like doing the show in this format, it's very raw and kind of unscripted, it's very loose, and we can have that conversation back and forth like you're talking to a friend.
Yes, for sure. Love it.
Okay. So I'm looking, and it doesn't seem like there's any other questions. So let me just wrap it up with, I'll just kind of summarize a few of the points that Chantelle's done a really great job of covering today. So she's talked about how you need to infuse your story into your speeches and your message whenever you're doing public speaking, whether it's on a webinar or a podcast or a hangout on air or a live stage. Make sure that you share your story, because that's how people connect with you. And even if you're doing live events that are online, that is the best way that you can connect with people, because it's almost the same as being there. So people can really make those connections with you, and it's that know, like, and trust factor. We've talked about building relationships, and it's really, really important to give valuable content. Even when you're giving stuff away for free, it should be your best content, because that's what's going to help lead people into buying your products and doing further business with you in a really natural way. And you've talked about how to get on stage and talk to the one person who really needs to hear your message. And that probably helps with getting over the fear as well, not talking to an entire audience of 100 or 500 or 1,000 people, but speaking to that one person who needs to hear what you are talking about. And make sure you consider your target audience when you're crafting your signature speech, and how you can tweak a basic message and change it to different audiences just by changing the jokes and the videos and the things that you can add to the show that makes it specific and personal. And of course, make sure to do your research before you make your pitch, and then before you go and do your presentation. Okay, I've just noticed there's one more question. She's talking about free tools. So this is Lori. I have a Facebook page, and in the future, when I have things more developed, I would use the group. But my question I have, my business page where I market my overall biz, and I want a public figure page specific to the message too. So I might be able to answer that, Ashley, because I do talk a lot about social media marketing.
Yeah, go for it.
I think you probably do want to just have one public figure page. If possible, have just a single Facebook page instead of having them scattered all over the place, unless your messages are really different. So you have your personal profile and your business page. And that business page, you can be, like for myself, Bright Spark Media, or if it's really different, I do have another one called Style Photography. And I keep those separate, but it's really important to have a business page that you can run ads to, that you can promote with contests and all sorts of different things. It gets better search engine optimization. But definitely have it as a public figure. And I think, Chantelle, you have it as a public figure, don't you? Your category is a public figure, isn't it?
Yes, and then I was going to say, because that really is kind of like an umbrella, right? Like that actually covers, if you're that public figure, then you can have, like I have my 2 different websites. So I have my speaking business, and then I have my CourageRevolution.com business, right, which is all about the coaching and all that kind of stuff. So the public figure of me, and then I'm able to then have different businesses and that kind of thing covered in that page. So I think that's the route to go for sure.
Awesome. And I've seen photographers and artists and all sorts of people talk about themselves as a public figure, because like you said, then it's kind of the umbrella, and then it's branding you as an expert. And no matter what other businesses or websites you have under different titles, it's always going to be you and your brand that is kind of umbrelling that. So I'm just kind of reiterating a few of the things that Chantelle said. So Lori, I hope that answered your question. It looks like, oh, maybe it was. Oh, sorry. Lori just added something else and said, maybe I missed it, but the question was, when do I know it's time to go as a public figure? Sorry. Okay, because there's a category actually in Facebook as a public figure. Okay. So Chantelle, can you speak to that? When is the time to call yourself a public figure or a public speaker or whatever it is? When are you professional almost?
I would just go for it, girl. I actually said that with some of the ladies in my course. They're like, well, I haven't actually done a speaking gig officially yet, but they have the training, which is actually probably more. Like they've taken the Center Stage program. They're Center Stage certified. So I'm like, you guys have the training, which could be more than a lot of public speakers. And you're speaking in a lot of different ways. So, I mean, you need to own it. And as soon as you can own it, I say put it out there, put it out into the world. And that really helps you to rise to that title as well. So I think go for it right now. Go for it and build that public image and start building that credibility.
Woohoo! That's a good answer. Sorry, we kind of misunderstood your question at first. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. And it looks like that's it for questions. So why don't we just wrap it up and let's talk about, why don't you just introduce some of the free gifts that you've got for people listening. So Chantelle's generously made an offer, some free tools that she will share with you, and I'll put them in the show notes. I'm going to be creating this as blog posts, so you can come back and I'll have a bit of a recap and hopefully some time stamping, so you can just jump right to the questions that we've talked about, and obviously give Chantelle's links.
Perfect. So you can obviously go just to my website, which is thecouragerevolution.com, and on there you can get the Courage to Fly book, which does have those 60 amazing authors, including Daniel Laporte and Karen Samuelson and many others. And so you can get that downloaded for free, as well as a Courage Manifesto and some other amazing desktop images to help you get your brave on and to really be passionate about what you're doing and to really go for it and take action. And so that's just my everyday kind of gift on my website. And also to join the Brave Tribe community, you get a free link to join there in Facebook, like we were talking about earlier. that's one of those tools. And then, but a special gift too is a free 4-part training, which is actually what I used, repurposing again, which I used for this Speaking Extravaganza week, which got people huge breakthroughs as they applied what I teach in this 4-part video training and PDF series. So it's all in one beautiful little spot for you that you can find and you can take and for free download and watch those videos and take action and start moving towards adding more speaking to your business in a powerful way and getting more clients and more cash. So that one is Speaking for Business is the training e-course. It's just a mini e-course, but it's for free. So yes, we'll share that link with you after.
Yay, thank you so much, and that is a really valuable tool. So it's some of the tips that she actually does share in her paid program in Center Stage. So it can kind of get you started and get your juices flowing and get you an idea of how you can actually start speaking, even if you just use those free tools. It's just going to be a great jump start. So I'm going to wrap it up and say thank you so much, Chantelle, for agreeing to be on the show. And actually, I did want to show off one thing. So this is the bracelet that Chantelle actually sent in the mail. So thank you. It did arrive. It took 2 weeks to get to where Chantelle and I are actually in the same city. We've never met face-to-face, which is really bizarre. But thank you so much for the bracelet, and she sent that as part of a gift to the Center Stagers. Yay, thank you. And you're the second person who's actually used a lighthouse, like a lantern or a lighthouse symbol for me, so lighting the way. So that's very cool.
You are that bright spark, so there you go.
Aw, thank you. Okay, so thanks for being on the show, and you've heard where you can find Chantelle, and I will post her website and links for you in the comments and on the show notes page. So this is Angelique Duffield from Bright Spark Media and HangoutsOnAirStrategy.com. Thank you so much for joining us today, and if we've missed any questions, then Chantelle and I will kind of go back into the comments and answer them just on the Google Plus page or the YouTube page. And if you've missed it, you're obviously going to be able to watch the replays and kind of go over the information later. So the topic today was public speaking and how you can use it to build your business, gain credibility, and even make more money. So this has been the Power of Free Show. This is episode number 2, and I look forward to seeing you every Thursday at noon Pacific time. Thanks for joining us. This is Angelique Duffield signing off. Bye.